Gambling companies, executives, and lobbying groups have said, let's face it, some absolutely outrageous things about gambling and gambling addiction. In fact, the crap that's come out of their mouths has been so outrageous to me that I, a recovering gambling addict, I feel like I need to show you some of their absolute worst moments. Now look, you probably expect that gambling companies, their CEOs, they're gonna say some bullshit because they're trying to make as much money as humanly possible, of course, at the expense of your health and well-being if needed. But you might not know about a group that is arguably more full of shit. The American Gaming Association. Now, the American Gaming Association sounds like something that exists to protect gamblers. But no, not at all. Their actual function is to make the casinos and sports books as much money as humanly possible within the confines of the law. The law that they lobby for and essentially write themselves. Let's dive into some of the absolute worst things that I've seen and read from these groups. And make sure that you check your blood pressure before we get going here. All right, so the first video that we're going to check out is probably, just straight off the bat, the worst guy that we'll hear from. That's my guess, but it could get worse. This guy, Bill Miller, the president of the American Gaming Association, surely couldn't say anything bad when comparing substance addiction to gambling, right? He wouldn't say anything bad.
People that are irresponsible and that are anti-gambling, they would like to lump it all into some dynamic that is similar to the tobacco companies.
Right.
I find that absolutely abhorrent and offensive. An industry that 9 out of 10 Americans believe is an appropriate entertainment form.
9 out of 10 Americans? Well, who did you ask? You mean from the research study that you funded? That only asked the people that you chose? That would be terrible, right? This couldn't possibly be biased at all, the American attitudes towards gaming, because this firm, it's probably a trustworthy firm, right? Well, it's on behalf of the American Gaming Association. Oh, so they conducted a survey that they paid for, and now he's referencing it as the reason that people approve gambling. Not surprising. Let's see what else he has to say.
Is being compared to something that kills people. That's not appropriate.
But gambling addiction does lead to the most suicide attempts.
Highest rate. Yep.
If you're talking about killing people.
Yeah, I mean, don't know that that's true.
This dude's such a head ass. Don't know that it's true. It's well-published research. Maybe it wasn't published by the group that you funded, Bill, but it's well-published and well-known that 20% of people with gambling disorder attempt or consider attempting suicide, Bill. It kills tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. But we don't know that that's true because we didn't pay for that research, right?
Higher rate, if not actual numbers,
Right.
say the experts.
Gambling disorder has one of the highest rates of suicidal thinking,
Thank God Tim's
suicide
here.
attempts, than any other addictive behavior.
Yep.
The sports gambling industry claims very few are addicted.
I think it's a very small percentage, about 1%.
Advocates for more regulation say it's likely much higher. Truth is, we don't really have hard numbers on addiction.
Yes, we don't have the hard numbers on addiction, but yet they reference their numbers as if they're hard numbers when they're also just bullshit.
But to all users, these apps trumpet a simple message: gamble responsibly.
The responsible gaming model that you hear over and over and over again puts all the onus on the individual to stop.
Yeah. Harry here, he has a great point. The current model tells you that, hey, if you gambled irresponsibly, it's your fault. You should have gambled responsibly. So essentially, it's blaming the person that develops the problem, right? Well, what other industry has done that? One that comes to mind that Bill would be absolutely pissed off to make a comparison to is Purdue Pharma and OxyContin. Purdue executive Richard Sackler cast blame on opioid victims. A member of the family that owns Purdue Pharma cast blame on victims of the opioid epidemic in nearly 20-year-old emails that have been made public in a lawsuit brought by Connecticut's Attorney General. The lawsuit says that former Purdue Pharma CEO Richard Sackler wrote to an acquaintance in 2001, "Abusers aren't victims, they are the victimizers. Oh, poor me. I only make billions of dollars selling an addictive product, but it's your fault, and you shouldn't be talking bad about me, because owie, that hurts my feelings."
I find that absolutely abhorrent and offensive.
But he said it, not me. Bill, I don't want to pick on you too bad, man. Maybe you said something better in this other interview that you did with CNN again on 60 Minutes. Maybe, we just got a bad clip of you in that first one. Maybe you're going to say something better in this one.
You don't think adding a layer of betting makes the phone more addictive than
No, I
just
don't.
tooling around Instagram?
No.
Bill, you still in there? Buddy, you don't think it's addictive at all?
Take out our phone, 24 hours a day, few swipes. How do you reconcile that with the fact that this entertainment has the potential to addict users?
Yeah, the addiction element of are people addicted to their phones, which is kind of a common phrase. I don't believe that there is an addiction to mobile betting any more than there is an addiction to utilization of your phone for any other reason.
You don't think adding a layer of betting makes the phone more addictive than
No, I
just
don't.
tooling around Instagram?
No.
Every clinician we've spoken to has said we're noticing a rise in problem gambling. There are a lot more problem gamblers now by every metric than there were pre-2018.
Lights are on, but nobody's home. Now, this entire industry exists because we've allowed it to get to this point. The American Gaming Association is just a reflection of all of the money that's being spent on gambling expansion in the United States. And how do I know this? Because these are the core members of the American Gaming Association and where their money comes from. Now, you're probably thinking, Rob, that's a pretty big list of gambling operators, but there's no FanDuel and DraftKings, so, they can't really be in the back pocket of every big casino in the world, right? Wrong! That happened today, as I was filming this. They were very quick to fix their website, I will let you know. Yeah, they had a split seas with DraftKings and FanDuel because they're fighting over prediction markets. And God knows I don't care who is represented by the American Gaming Association, because I know for a fact it's not the gambler. No one represents the gambler in the United States, which is something that I'm working on changing. More to come on that. But yeah, a little bit of drama over here. Well, I think we've beaten the crap out of the AGA enough. We don't really need to go further down that path. We recognize, I hope, by this point in the recording that they're not doing good things. They're out to get gamblers by helping the gambling industry continue to expand. But who else is on their side? Because we know the casino executives will say one thing. We know the American Gaming Association will say another. What about owners of sports leagues that are now getting millions of more views because people are watching their games because they're gambling on them? Well, let's hear from the Washington Capitals owner on what he thinks about sports betting.
Let's bring these dollars into the sunlight. Let's let it be regulated. Let's let it be taxed. Let's use it for the good instead of calling it gambling and gaming and giving it a bad name.
Wait, what? I get the let's do it legally and tax it and everything, but for the record, people call it gambling and gaming because that is what it is. You want to rename sports betting to what exactly? Fun with numbers and screens?
Like the truth, right? There's all these people pushing for gambling to get legalized because there's big money in it, right? Let's bring those dollars into the sunlight is what he said. So there's obviously a huge financial incentive, but the way that it's being done is by misleading people into believing that it's less dangerous than it actually is, by calling it gaming, calling it something fun, calling it fun with numbers and screens. But the owners of these leagues, they're making billions of dollars because of the increased visibility of leagues because people are gambling more on them. It's this never-ending cycle where everyone's happy that there's more gambling except for the gamblers themselves. They just don't know it yet because they haven't experienced the losses that are definitely in their future. Online gambling is everywhere. We've just reached this point where I don't think the genie's going back into the bottle. It seems that there's going to be gambling in every state pretty soon with these prediction markets. It seems like there is gambling everywhere now. But there must be groups that are trying at least to do the right thing, right? To protect the gamblers. I know I said earlier there's no group that's really sticking up for gamblers, but there's all these messages that say gamble responsibly. There must be something positive coming from that, right? There must be some kind of responsibility or some kind of person looking out for the little guy, right? Well, let's hear from the two bigwigs. We got a vice president of public policy at FanDuel who handles the site's responsible gambling initiatives. He compares using safeguards to wearing a seatbelt when driving in a car. And FanDuel said it's committed to setting standards for being a responsible operator in the online gambling space. And over at DraftKings, we had their responsible gaming officer say that the site is committed to the same goal and compared the limit-setting tools to taking Ubers instead of driving on a night when you know you'll be drinking. So once again, the very same people that are there to help gamblers are telling you that you're drunk when you're gambling. And if you're not using their tools, that means you are irresponsible. So they tell you to gamble responsibly, but what does gambling responsibly mean? Well, there's a couple of groups that have stepped out and tried to say what it is. A lot of them say not to gamble more than 1% of your disposable income. Well, that would mean that for a lot of people in the United States, they'd be betting a couple dozen dollars in a month. And if you go to a casino, you can't even put a bet in for less than $25 on a lot of tables. So it's these contradicting messages that say gamble responsibly with our tools, but if you do that, which we know you're not going to do, and you have a problem, well, it's because you were irresponsible. You weren't responsible enough. Responsible gambling is bullshit. So anyone telling you, oh man, you just got to gamble responsibly, stay within your limits. There's no predefined good definition of what responsible gambling actually looks like. It's just a way for these companies to pretend like they're doing something. And these executives that work there, they know that. They're just trying to put a smile on and make it look like they're doing the absolute best that they can, while everyone that uses the app is being deluded into thinking that they have a chance to win, when in reality, they're supposed to lose. You're being defrauded by these sportsbooks and casinos to think that you have a fair shake. The reality is much different. This guy triggers me. This is Bill Pascrell. He's a representative of the gambling industry, and he makes my blood boil. The things that he says are so outrageous that I feel like I should just let the video do the talking for itself. But this is the kind of person that's pushing forth regulation in the country. If this is the guy helping to come up with regulation, what the hell is going to get regulated?
It's pretty straightforward. Every smoker is jeopardizing their health. There's no responsible way to smoke. Smoking, in and of itself, is innately harmful. Gambling is not. We've been gambling since almost the beginning of mankind.
I think we've been smoking for longer than we've been gambling, in fairness, Bill.
Back in the Greek and Roman empires, on everything. And who hasn't said, hey, I'll bet you this guy doesn't do this or this gal doesn't do that?
So his defense on why the gambling industry is not addictive or dangerous is that the Romans did it. The Romans also put people into a coliseum and had them kill each other, Bill. But that's not bad because the Romans did it. Oh, or it's because people say, I bet you. Oh, because a word is in the vocabulary of America, that doesn't mean it could possibly be bad. I can't possibly think of any words that Americans have said that people have found offensive or were bad words. Right, Bill? I can't think of any.
The thing I want to make very abundantly clear,
Please.
Dr. Levant is committed to his position. And I agree that we have to make sure that the industry is protecting consumers and putting mechanisms in place to help gambling addicts.
What does it look like if the industry is self-regulated? They're just saying, I have to do a little bit better than my competitor to look better, to make it seem like I'm doing something. So we're seeing this race to the bottom where there's this baseline of let's help people with a gambling addiction by telling them they can call this number if they have a problem. The number, if you call it, is a group that though they do good work, is paid for by the very casino industry that is sending you to that number, so they won't tell you that gambling is bad. We can't have a self-regulated industry, Bill, because no one gives a shit that's in that industry. It is created to addict its clients and get them for everything that they're worth. It doesn't matter if you say gamble responsibly if everything that you do is irresponsible as a business. The truth is that gambling is absolutely taken over. There's more addiction than ever before. more damage being done, and of course, more lies to cover it up, to justify an industry built on destroying their clients. Commercialized gambling is an industry that can only exist by addicting players and squeezing them for all they are worth. You are just numbers to these places. They'll tell you to gamble responsibly, but they don't market responsibly, build responsible products, or give a shit about how many lives are ruined so that they can report positive earnings to their shareholders. Today, you heard from some of the biggest hypocrites in the country. And in a few years, it's going to be these exact same people blasting out apology messages on social media, begging for your forgiveness for the lives that they destroyed. Remember this video when that happens. And watch this video if you feel like you're the only person on earth with a gambling addiction, because it's going to prove that you're not. Let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.